Hey everybody, welcome to Making Sense of It All. I am pleased to bring you Scott Coble. He has come back to share some more knowledge with us when it comes to businesses, where they are in their business cycle. I wanted to dive into this because people don't understand this a lot of the times, at least not from a real technical standpoint. So Scott, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, it's great to be here, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
So, like I was saying before, I think one of the biggest things that we wanted to talk about or kind of pull out and really focus on today was kind of the life cycle of a business and kind of where people are, the different traps or the different things that people don't think about along the way, that things that can happen. And I figured there was nobody better to talk about it than yourself.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And, you know, you've mentioned it before when we've talked about what puts people in business. It's
100%.
typically, yeah, it's typically a dream that they have, a vision, a need that they see, and a way to apply some skills that they either have or that they're partnering with to provide a service or products. And so it's really exciting. And yeah, the life cycle typically has three parts. There's the learning phase where you're in the business, you're learning the ropes. It's kind of where you're in the honeymoon, which can be a little bit of a trap too, but it's the honeymoon time. And then you move into the growth phase of a business where you're really starting to gain traction based on the things that you've learned earlier. And then as some businesses face, and we see it, business can begin to decline. And
Sure.
and it's where a fork in the road is reached. And unless something is done to change that, then the business could go into decline. And sometimes a business owner will be in a bit of denial about what's causing that downturn to happen. But what we see is most successful is as a company is growing and they're achieving success, that's the time to pay particular attention to the industry, the marketplace. What are the small incremental things that need to be done within the business to continue making it viable? The life cycle of a business doesn't mean that every business's life has to end at some point in time. The life,
Fair.
yeah, the life cycle of the business means there's certain phases to go through. So, look, I know business owners who have been really, really successful, but had the foresight to see I need to add a complementary part to my business. And I'll tell you about my brother. Yeah, he's a successful contractor, and he's been in construction for about 48 years. But he saw the opportunity to go into the pavement sealing business and parking lot sealing business. And so now he has a business that is a little more steady than some of the big contracting jobs. And he has a team that does that. And it really has diversified his business. Well, what that's done is it's created a new stream of income, a new business opportunity, and he's less volatile to changes in the economy on the building side of the business too. So I think businesses just have to think those things through, and every business comes to a fork in the road multiple times within the life of the business.
I couldn't agree with you more. I get several different people that I know that I think of in my head when you're talking about your brother's business. I mean, I've had people that, I mean, you think about certain industries that are hot and heavy for a long time, depending on what matters in the economy. Like, let's say power plants. I'll give you an example on the power plant side. I had a customer who did expansion joints for power plants, for coal-fired power plants. So as our economy and as our country is trying to go to more towards clean energy and to do something different on that side, all of a sudden their business isn't necessarily obsolete, but now they're maintaining or they have maintenance contracts, but they don't have any new power plants that they're building or needing expansion joints. So they have to take the skill set that they have to take the tooling that they have in their shop, and they had to think, what can I do to generate additional revenue that'll probably end up being a primary source of revenue at some point in my business's life cycle. But if they didn't have those thoughts, they'd have been out of business when the power plant business started to go down. And the other things that I think about, you've got people who are essentially to your point, like in the construction or in trades or things to where they have skill sets to where they have learned and they train their people on certain tasks. Well, you think about plumbers. I mean, my God, I mean, plumbers deal with water, they deal with gas, they deal with all sorts of things that people don't really think about when it comes to plumbing. So if they're not upskilling, if they're not trying to, diversify their skill set when it comes to additional ways to generate revenue, they really are potentially setting themselves up for a downfall or forcing themselves to, at some point in the business life cycle, sell the business. And they may not want to do that.
Exactly. And when the business is in some type of decline, the market value of that business is not going to reflect what the owner wants it to. And that's the cold reality. That's the price you pay for not reinvesting in the business and not making it viable. I'll give you the name of a business that those of us that are old enough will recognize for not realizing when the business needs to be reinvented. Blockbuster Video. Uh, think of that. For years, they were the place to go to rent your movies. People showed up on Friday and they would rent movies through the weekend. And,
Absolutely.
it's where the term be kind and rewind was invented. And now, they were across the country with locations. And now there's one Blockbuster Video left. It's in Alaska. Okay. And what happened was, the advent of streaming happened and they didn't pick up on it. And what happened next was basically was history for them. So that's one of the most vivid examples of just failing to, when you're successful, failing to look at how you may need to reinvent yourself.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? The last Blockbuster Videos in Alaska, and the gentleman Wayne Huizenga, who started Blockbuster, has a team named the Dolphins in Miami, Florida,
Yeah, yeah,
or
he
had.
did. Yeah, he did. He used to own them and was a great part of that community there around Miami.
Yeah, but that's just ironic that the frigid cold of Alaska is the last place that his moneymaker ended up. It's interesting. Because I mean, and I'll put the graphic up for some of the videos that we do, but like you had provided me with a, kind of a graphic of kind of the business cycle, and as far as through the learning phase, through the growth phase, and into the decline phase. And you said it, like not everything has to go to the decline phase. And I think that there's a lot of people who will listen to this, and you're not necessarily talking about somebody who's just starting a business and who is they're looking for help on the front side. It's really those people that are truly they could be at the zenith of their success. They could be at what they would call their mountaintop right now, and they have that thought in their head. It's like, okay, now what? And
Hmm.
if you have that now what thought in your head, that's the perfect time to bring in a coach. It's the perfect time to bring in kind of that second set of eyes, someone who's going to look at it without the emotional attachment to your business and really give you that thought of, okay, what could I do now to where this isn't the mountaintop. We're just halfway up to the peak right now. And I think I want to impress upon the audience that, because this isn't about starting a business per se. This is about taking that next step, whether you think you're at the top or if you think you're in the middle, wherever it is. It's if you feel like you need a little bit of help taking that next step, that's where you come into play.
Well, I'll give you a great example of that. I'm working with a business now, very successful, but the father wants to eventually exit the business, and the son is the person primarily running the business. But my coaching with the owner will be how to transition the business and shore up the things that he's done in the past that the son's not as talented in doing. His talents lie in a different area. And so, how do we fill that gap?
Right.
How do we get from point A to point B? And part of what I do is understanding the business and helping the owner build the bridge to the next phase. Well, in a way, he's reinventing things to be able to step away, hand more to his son, but then knowing that his son's got somebody working with him to coach him, which would be me,
Yes.
to help make that transition as smooth as possible so that dad can enjoy, the rewards of what he's worked so hard for years for. And the son can reinvent the business, take the business over, maybe do some things a little bit differently than dad that he's been wanting to do for years. But he's doing it with somebody who's helping him. And again, he doesn't feel alone in doing it.
No doubt.
Dad may have the founder's syndrome where there's only one good way to do it. It's the way that made this business successful. And by the way, I did that, you know, which is a, a perfectly understandable place to be, but it's not always the best thing when you're transitioning to somebody else. They're going to have to run it their way, and I'm there to help them achieve success doing it their way.
Yeah, you kind of give them the like a little bit of assistance in letting go of that control, feeling secure, feeling safe that they can do so, and knowing that the person that they are relinquishing control to has a little bit of support going through that process.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, it's just like we have on the other episodes. I mean, to me, the whole important part of this is that if it sparks somebody's interest in having a conversation, that's where everything starts. It's not necessarily that they have to say exactly, "Oh, that's me," but if any of this makes them, gets their creative juices flowing, gets them thinking about their business, gets them excited about what could be, what's the best way for them to touch base with you and start that conversation?
Well, you're right. Um, we work with people across each phase of the business cycle, Jesse. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a struggle. It might be that business owner that's looking at the future, and how to achieve the goals that maybe they don't have 100% thought out, but they know there's somewhere else they want to be. The way that we would do that really is through a conversation. Anybody can email me at scoble at focalpointcoaching.com. That's SCOBLE at focalpointcoaching.com. And what we can do is have a conversation. I typically start out with just getting to know somebody, build rapport with people. Obviously, I want to know who I'm working with, and maybe most importantly, so does the business owner. Uh,
100%.
right. And so we
People work with people. You got to like who you're working with.
exactly. And that's why every business won't be for me and I won't be for every business. But when that connection happens and you can work together, what'll happen is it's about gaining clarity, you know, around what you want as the owner, around what the business needs to thrive and prosper. And then it's about building that bridge, how to get there. Now, sometimes a hard question becomes, well, why aren't you there already?
Sure.
What's gotten in the way? What's constrained the business? And that can be a very healthy conversation. I don't ever judge people because I haven't lived their life. But what can happen is when you gain clarity around it, it's easier to work on it. So if it's something that you think is constraining you, look, we take on a we will, not we'd like to do approach to things. So if you're going to get there, if you're going to get to your goal, let's talk about how we're going to get there, not what's holding us back.
100%.
Yeah.
Scott, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it.
All right. Catch you down the road.